Ginevra is the artist. She is the one responsible for Scissor Storm cut paper art. This is something unusual, a little different. You can see some of the design there. And actually, there she is, working on the arts. How did you get started in doing something like this? And I guess explain to us a little more about this.
I think it was probably when I was about 6, and they gave me a pair of scissors and said, okay, make some snowflakes or some paper dolls for 3rd grade, you know, very early. And I guess the tools just felt natural for me. And in the last couple years, I've really been pushing myself to see how far I could take paper cutting, how intricate I could make my designs, and how complicated I could get with compositions. I work freehand, so I sometimes will look at a photo for reference or make a sketch, but I'm cutting from my own head and from my imagination and creating the pieces as I see them in my mind's eye.
And I'm going to just zoom over because right now there's some people looking over at your beautiful artwork that you do just by doing this. It's funny you mentioned the snowflakes because I can remember too as a kid, like folding the paper in half and doing this and making little cuts, and all of a sudden you get a great snowflake out of it. But this is a lot more than that, right? I mean, there's a lot more skill involved than just doing that.
Well, thank you. Lots of practice.
And you can talk while I'm looking here because some of the stuff that you're cutting and all.
Yeah.
And there's something really cool.
Just practicing some organic shapes and exploring some sort of undersea textures there.
And you can actually make some money doing something like this. I mean,
it's terrific. You know, it's lovely to discover that people appreciate a great variety of different art forms. So,
when did you decide this is something I'm going to do? Now, we're at Florida Supercon here at the Miami Beach Convention Center. This is your first time at a Supercon, but you've done other events. And what events were they?
So, I've shown my work at art walks and other arts type exhibitions. Murakami, Japanese Meat Gardens, has a wonderful event, their Hatsume Fair, the Spring Festival. I had a great time there this year. Those kinds of shows and events are really fun, and I get great response from people.
When was it, though, that it was like, yeah, I'm going to start doing these at different events and different activities? Was there something that happened, or somebody said, why don't you do this?
Oh, actually, I guess I did a symmetrical Yoda piece for a coworker as a gift. He was actually moving away, and I knew that he loved Star Wars, so I wanted to give him something special, and I had this ability, so he freaked out when he saw that piece, and I thought, you know, maybe I'm onto something, and maybe this is something I should really develop and try to share with people. So the last couple of years I've really been pushing myself, and it's been terrific. It's been lots of fun.
On social media, have you found others that do things like this as well?
There are a handful of people, but I've got to be honest with you, most of the other paper artists that I've followed and spoken to work with an X-Acto knife. I think it's pretty unusual for a paper artist to work with scissors and to work in the way that I do. But there are so many inspiring artists out there who are working in this medium, and it's absolutely delightful to get inspiration from their work.
What do you like doing most? Is there something you like to do most? What are you doing here? This is just abstract that you're creating?
Actually, this is a feather that's taking shape. And I love doing organic subjects because there's some freedom there to create them as
you see it in your mind?
That's right. And also, you know, if you're depicting something mechanical or something, you have to be accurate and precise.
Well, no, of course, like even like Starship Enterprise, you really have to know the details on that because especially here, people know exactly what it looks like.
Exactly, right. Whereas if you're cutting a feather, each one can be different and unique, and as long as you're capturing that realism and that detail, they'll be beautiful and each one will be exciting and different.
Now, I'm going to ask you this, because I thought this was interesting too. So I see you look, a lot of this stuff is black and white, correct?
Yes.
So I also noticed that you're wearing gray and black. Was that done by design?
I sort of have a monochromatic, neutral palette thing going on. You're right, but actually, yeah, I could have stood out a bunch more, I guess, if I were wearing red from head to toe. But I guess I'm trying to keep it consistent.
It goes with what you do, the decor. So.
Wonderful.
All right, so now I'm going to go over here. We'll end this just by getting some of the work. So I'm going to get that. Did you purposely pick out pieces too because you were coming to Comic-Con?
Of course, the Star Wars stuff, the Studio Ghibli stuff, absolutely. God, I hope I did okay.
I'm sure you're going to find out this weekend. It all looks great. I wanted to ask you too, I'll get this back over to you, but I want to get some of this first. And there's some of this. Thing is with this too, you see there's some of the smaller pieces. Does it take you about how much time would you say it takes you to do certain things?
It totally depends on the piece. With the smaller things, with subjects I'm comfortable with and experienced with, they can go fairly quickly. But on a complex piece, on a piece where I've created a composition and I'm trying to execute something, it can be as many as 10 hours. It totally varies.
Well, thank you so much. Is there a social media or website for people to go?
Absolutely. Etsy.com. Just search for Scissor Storm. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter, Pinterest, the usual.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.